Hello and welcome to May the Review Be With You with Nick and Joe. I'm Joe.
I'm Nick.
And today we are reviewing Season 2 of House of the Dragon, the first episode of Season 2, A Son for a Son. Lot to talk about today. And let me go ahead, Nick, and just say, I think I felt this way during Season 1, but I don't care. I'm going to say it again. It feels so good to have a Song of Ice and Fire story on Sunday nights. Yes. I can't explain it. There's just something really nice about it.
100% agree. It's just such a cool story and world. And it's a proper show. It's a proper TV show. It's got great writing, fantastic acting all the way through. Doesn't disappoint. It's very rare that a story from the Song of Ice and Fire disappoints, and this first episode was right in line with that. It was a great a great opener for this season 2. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, no, it really was. There were so many welcome things getting into this episode. In particular, I'm a big Matt Smith fan. And watching Matt Smith be Daemon Targaryen is such a treat. He's so conniving and just a ruthless guy. And of course, that is going to lead to some problems this episode, this season, and ultimately this story. But we'll get into that. Nick, your first impressions, what were they?
This show. When this episode ended, my thought was, this freaking world, man. This freaking world, this freaking story. It just has a way of shocking you and then also saying, I should have known that this was going to happen, but also just still being ridiculously shocked at how it comes to be. Like, That was my initial reaction, like just disbelief, in how this show operates and how this Westeros of the world operates. Like, just totally crazy, So many, and like,
I think it does go to like the popcornness that you were kind of vibing at the beginning, right? Like there's just kind of a spectacle to this show where you do have some very entertaining characters. Then of course, like there's just like a climactic, horrible scene that catches you off guard, right? That this show, both shows are well known for now at this point. Quick tangent here, actually, I wanted to get into because it just clicked for the memory for me. So we've never talked about this on the podcast before, but one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast is because Nick and I have a habit of getting on the phone with each other to geek out about whatever it is that we both just watched. And, you know, at one point we were like, well, we should start recording our geek outs, whether or not anybody listens. We're wasting time not doing it, right? And I could be wrong, Nick, but I think one of the first shows we did that with as adults was Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty confident it is.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Because we were both in college and we weren't seeing each other nearly as much anymore, and that was one of our ways of staying connected.
Yeah, I think that's 100% accurate. That definitely sounds right. So it's very cool that it's a little full circle here with us being able to talk about House of the Dragon now. This is great.
Yeah.
This is so great.
You kept me company talking about Game of Thrones as I would have an hour and a half drive home. I really appreciated you for that. Those were dark times.
Dark times indeed.
Yeah. If anyone listens to us and they have a long commute, I sympathize, and you will get through it, and it will not be forever. All right, you're gonna get through it.
He's talking about the drive, not the episode.
Just to be clear. I mean, the episode's dark times too, for the record.
True. Yeah, this one's. Yeah. Oh man. All right. Give me your thoughts. Any other thoughts besides?
I think so. I'll say this just right before we really dive into the nit and grit of this. This story ended with a pretty famous scene that for some reason I didn't think we were gonna get this early. The scene is referred to as the blood and cheese scene, and it's of course the scene where Aegon's son is murdered in front of Helena. And it's a pretty violent scene, and I don't know. I thought we were gonna get it later. I was not expecting it in the premiere, but I thought it was done really well. And we'll get into that. This whole episode just kind of caught me off guard. I don't think I was prepared to just be back in this world. The premiere just kind of snuck up on me. I was excited on Sunday night, and here we are.
Yeah, I don't think you can prepare. You can't prepare for this world. You just like. Killing babies and stuff. You can't prepare for that. It's unbelievable. It's ridiculous. Anyway,
ridiculous.
Take it away. Where are we starting? Where do you want to start?
I actually really want to start at the very beginning. For two reasons. Number one, so the beginning of this episode, I guess just as a quick rundown, we are reunited with Jacaerys as he is rounding off allies for his mother. He learns the news of Lucerys having been killed, and there's a lot of regrouping going on in the fallout of Lucerys' death, right? And we are watching everyone kind of react to it, and that's more or less what this episode is the fallout of his death, right? And we see some people grieve, we see some people take action. We see different political maneuvers in the making, and ultimately the fires of war are getting hotter and hotter. But the beginning of this episode is not hot. It's actually the opposite of hot. It is the return to Winterfell, which I was so excited to see. And again, caught off guard. I wasn't expecting to be in Winterfell really at all, which I don't know why I wasn't expecting that. I think
the reason you weren't expecting it is so I didn't think. I mean, they did pick up pretty much where we left off from season 1, right? But I think there was a part of me that didn't think it was going to be right where we left off, the immediate aftermath. And part of the reason is just because, he's in Winterfell. Her son goes to Winterfell at the end of season 1 to round up to solidify the Starks being allies, and it's been 2 years, and he's a younger guy from a filming perspective, and I think I was shocked that they were showing us the Winterfell scenes because the actor whose name I don't know is significantly older than than he was 2-3 years ago when they filmed season 1. So they're we're seeing him it's a time jump from a real life perspective from the actor, right? But it's not really a time jump.
Yeah, he looks a little older,
world.
even though it's only been a few days.
Right, exactly. That's why it was weird for me. I wasn't really expecting to see Winterfell because I figured we'd get some kind of scene where maybe he's back from Winterfell or something. Granted, he's still going to look older, but I don't know. I guess that's part of the reason I was a little bit thrown off. It's the immediate aftermath, and he's finding out from the Starks about with the Raven about about his brother's death, which is pretty. That was a really cool scene when he's on top of the wall.
Hold up before we get there, because I have a big question about the wall. Okay, so I think I called him Jacaerys before. It's Jacaerys. Jacaerys is talking to Cregan Stark. Okay. And again, this is just a character I had forgotten about. Cregan Stark's actually pretty important historically in this lore. For reasons I'm sure are gonna play out in this show. There's no other reason to introduce this character. However, something that really confused, I needed to remind myself about Cregan's role in the world, because the way it was set up, I thought the way that they introduced him, I thought he was like the head of the Night's Watch for a moment, and
Right.
I was like, no, he's not. He's the head of House Stark.
Right.
Wait, why the hell are they on the wall right now? Like, I know we started in Winterfell, but then all of a sudden we're just on the wall.
Right.
And it's not like, I mean, like, hey, maybe he wants to show him the wall, right? Okay, cool. It's not like the wall is like a short walk away from Winterfell. Like, it's pretty far. We saw Jon and his uncle go like, I don't know, what, 3-4 days before like they got to the wall? Like, it's a long walk.
Yeah. Yeah, so the cool part about this episode is it opens with Winterfell, really, and we see...
I love that you're just going to completely ignore this. You're like, yeah, all right, whatever, nerd.
No, I'm getting there. My
bad.
But I wanted to talk about, like, why they transitioned, why they even, like, the way that they got us to the wall, right? Why?
Okay.
Like, they were telling us the story historically about how they used to be chosen, how men used to be chosen to get to the wall, because they back in the day, it wasn't always about, the Westeros we know from Game of Thrones it's thieves and people who have been caught for crimes and they're sent to the wall, and or they die, right? But back in the day, there wasn't they didn't have. It sounds like after today's episode, or this recent episode, that's not fully established. So they also pick men from Winterfell, and you're putting your hand in a bag. And if you pull out a black stone, then you have to go and serve basically at the wall. So they show us like this cool scene where you get some kind of history about how they used to choose people for the wall. And then all of a sudden we see, is it Jacaerys? What is his name?
Jacaerys.
Jacaerys and Lord of Winterfell are now like taking the elevator up to the top of the wall. And this is where you're like, why are we even here? This took 4 days to get there. Like,
right.
This is a very long way to get to the wall.
Right. And the conversation that they're having is not like, we've been traveling together for 4 days. It's like, we literally just saw each other today.
Right. Yeah. These are great points. And of course, like, he tells a story at the top, right? Cregan, like, Stark tells the story at the top about how he's brought everyone else, or about how like the Starks have always brought, a leader from the Seven Kingdoms to the top, so they can see the true scope of what they're guarding, essentially, to try to give them an idea of why it's important that they keep the wall defended and they keep the North secure. But yeah, the fact that we kind of just pick up with like, here's a Winterfell shot, and then, oh wait, now we're at the wall, when we know that it takes a long time to get there. Very funny.
I will say though, I want to piggyback off of what you were saying earlier. In regard, even though I was like, why are we here? Like, and I'm confused. Like, what role is Cregan? But the scene itself, you're absolutely right. It is awesome. A reminder of how important duty is to like the Northmen, right? And like the Northmen are just cut from like a different cloth than like the Westerosi folk, like duty and honor means something totally different. I think there's that comment where Cregan says, we'll give you 2,000 graybeards, and Jacaerys is like, oh, so like old dudes, and Cregan's like, yeah, but it's like old dudes who don't fuck around, man. That was great. And then like, I think the line that literally gave me chills in this scene, like literal chills, was him telling the story of what you were saying about Alicent and Otto coming, and the dragons refusing to cross the wall. Like, ooh, like I get chills thinking about it right now. Ooh.
Yeah. Well, and then what we know now from in the future when a dragon crosses the wall, not great. Not a great outcome.
This is interesting because people online were saying that's an interesting point. People online have been saying that that's bad continuity for Game of Thrones, but you bring up something here. What if? All right, so like Targaryens can have dragon dreams, right?
Right.
And they can see the future. What if dragons can have dragon dreams, right? Like they're fully aware of what's on the other side.
Maybe.
Maybe. That is my headcanon today. That's a Joe theory. That's a Joe theory. Take it to the bank. You know the game theory guy retired? You know what I'm talking about? On YouTube, game theory. The guy who's like, then that's a game theory. Matt Pat?
No idea who that
I've
is.
definitely shown you him before. He's like a huge internet celebrity. He retired earlier this year.
Good for him.
So the catchphrase is up for grabs.
All right, well, it's a Joe theory, everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Oh,
Need to
my
come up with
goodness.
something flashier. But anywho, so yeah, this scene transitions pretty quickly to who I would identify as the current star of the show, Rhaenyra, and her grief over her son Lucerys, and how they're trying. She's trying to I think she's trying to come to grips with reality, right? And she doesn't quite accept it until she sees the dragon's wing and his cloak, right?
She's really looking for a body because she needs closure, right? And Daemon is talking with what's her name from
Rhaenys?
Rhaenys.
Yeah.
Daemon's talking to Rhaenys, and Rhaenys is saying that when her daughter died, she needed to see the bones basically to believe it. And so this is really what Rhaenyra is doing, is she's looking for a body. She's looking for some sign that what she's been told is true. And as you were just hinting at, she eventually finds it. She finds that the wing of her son's dragon, and then basically his cloak or clothes maybe was what it is, or whatever remnants are left of a cloak.
Yeah,
and
something that was clearly his.
Yeah, and which is just disturbing and heartbreaking in its own right. It's also so wild to me how different sizes those dragons can be, and the dragons are, right? Because even at the end of season 1, Vhagar is just so freaking massive compared.
He's of Godzilla proportions.
Unbelievable. The really cool, the sheer scope of those dragons, and how they really make them unique as far as their size goes. So
you rewatched season 1 before this started, right?
Yeah.
So I rewatched the finale, and I knew that the last scene is actually kind of scary,
right?
But I forgot how much it feels like Jaws. Yeah. Where all of a sudden you can't see the shark.
It just comes out of nowhere. Yeah.
Right, and you just don't know where the shark is going to come from.
Yeah, and then his brutal.
So scary.
What a brutal, scary scene. Yeah. Insane.
Yeah. I think to get some organization here, Nick, I think I'm going to focus on the Blacks for now.
Great.
And for the second half of this, we'll focus on Team Green, since that's ultimately where this episode ends, is with the Greens.
Yep. Cool.
So you were talking about Daemon before. Yep. We get that conversation with Daemon and Rhaenyra, and he seems like his motivation in this episode is just let's go, let's throw down, that's what he's trying to do in every scene, and it's not paying off until the end. What do you think about where Daemon's head is at right now?
Oh, just constant aggression. He wants the war. He wants to be in battle. He's a warrior, so it makes sense. He wants to take his dragons and go fuck shit up.
Fuck shit up.
Can't really blame him. Can't blame him. But thankfully, Rhaenyra is well, in this case, thankfully she's mourning, and she's mourning in her own way, and no one's gonna. She's the queen. She's the king, and so she's not going to Daemon can't give anyone orders, right? And
he's trying though. He's trying.
He's trying, and no one's listening to him, and he's also not bold enough to go by himself. So it's kind of
he's not stupid enough to mess with Vhagar, right? Vhagar is alone, their nuke. Yeah,
right.
alone.
So, but yeah, just constant aggression from him, and that's really it, right? There's not a lot else going on Team Black.
I would say you're right. There's mostly
it's just him
grief
trying to
and a struggle to move.
Right.
Yeah.
The cool part though about Rhaenyra is and I didn't realize this until after the episode when they do the little recap with the directors and the producers of the show. She only has one line in the whole episode, which is really awesome. And I think the line is basically just, "I want Aemon Targaryen." Is what the line is. That's it. That's all she says. Which, like, it's amazing that you didn't notice that really until after. It's so, I think it's really well done.
Hey, speak for yourself. I was paying attention. I noticed.
Well, you're a
nerd. No, I know. You can say
nerd,
it.
So you a nerd. But,
yeah, no, it is true.
That was
part
really
of House
awesome. Nerd. Yeah, that's really awesome. That's like her only line in the whole first episode is, "I want Aemon Targaryen." And of course, this is what Daemon's been waiting for, and he takes it upon himself to figure out a way to get into King's Landing, and obviously uses the what was her name? The white
worm.
White worm.
Yeah.
For information. And then from there finds the two men that are going to help him get a son for his son here at the end. But what about you? Anything else for Team Black that you want to talk about?
Yes. There are two things in particular. The first being Jacaerys returning home to talk to Rhaenyra. I think this was like my second favorite scene in the entire episode. I really loved the acting here. I loved the delivery of what Jacaerys is trying to say. Because he walks in and he's trying to be, the prince of Dragonstone, and he's trying to do his duty, right? Which, like, that's the theme of this episode is, doing your duty, right? That's the way it starts. And we certainly see some hypocrites of that on Team Green. And as he's trying to, like, give that report, of House Aaron and House Stark, once he gets to House Stark, like, you can hear his voice start to crack, and, like, the tears just start to come, and his mother embraces him for, like, the little boy that, like, he is, right? Like, he's just a child, right? And, like, the dude just lost his younger brother, which, like, he definitely feels responsible for because he wasn't there. Right. Yeah, I thought that scene was heartbreaking.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
Extremely heartbreaking. And that was done so well also because when he first starts talking, I was like, oh, it's so weird that, like, this is the first thing he's saying to her. They must have debriefed about his brother in a different room off camera, like, is how I first started to think about it. And then he gets halfway through telling her what the updates are, and he just breaks down. And I'm like, okay, he was trying to hold it together and get through the list of all the houses he had just gone to visit. So yeah, truly heartbreaking because it starts off so innocent because it seems like
matter of fact.
Yeah, it's like very matter of fact at the beginning, and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh wait, the weight of everything that is currently happening is like coming down on top of him as he's telling his mother
he can't
what the
actually
updates
finish
are.
It.
Yeah, brutal, heartbreaking for sure.
I don't know. For me, like, the way I interpret that scene, I think it's because, like, I think in that moment he realizes, like, how unimportant, like, the things that he's saying actually are. Like, they're important. They are important, but, like, for the elephant in the room, they don't matter at all, right? Which ultimately I think is what, like, kills me inside when I hear him say that. And, like, because, like, we're only at the beginning of this war, like, it's only going to get worse from here, Yeah. The other thing I wanted to bring up, this was a small thing, but it is ultimately going to have some big implications. So Corlys Velaryon, he doesn't have a lot to do in this episode, but, like, off screen, he's doing a lot, So we see Corlys, he's getting his ship, it's getting its legs back. I don't know what you say about repairing a ship. I don't know nothing about no boats. So he's getting his ship repaired, but he has a blockade at the gullet that's cutting off trade at King's Landing, which we hear from Team Green is having some, like, pretty bad implications, right? So our master of I forgot what they call it, a master of naval warfare. What is that called? Master of ship? Master of ship, right?
Matter of ship, I think. Yeah.
Master of ship. Yeah. Our master of ship is doing a great job holding down the fort. Um, he has this scene talking to this new character, and he says, "You were the one. I heard you were the one who pulled me from the wreckage." And guys like, it was my duty, right? Keeping in with the theme. And Corlys reminds him, he's like, "Hey, like, I owe you a life debt." And the camera like just lingers on the character for like a long time, like for the director to be like, "Hey, remember this guy. He's probably going to be important."
Yeah.
I am looking forward to that. Did that set off any alarm bells for you?
Yeah. I mean, anytime a ranking member of, a house tells a lesser member of the city that he has a life debt, basically, it's gonna jolt you a little bit. So that's gonna be very interesting. He also has a brother, right, who he's also enlisted to help fix the ship. So I imagine we're gonna get some kind of insight into what all that entails here in the future, which will be cool. I always love when we get new characters that we don't really know about. So they love to give us new characters and then rip our hearts out. So we'll see how long they last here. But
yeah, no one in the Game of Thrones universe really has any staying power, do they?
Right. Exactly. And this is a prequel, so we know how pretty much everything ends.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Pretty much.
Although the stakes do feel pretty high.
Yeah, I will say that there's a genius, I think, to this show. So if you're not familiar with like the Targaryen Civil War, like, okay, well, the Targaryens obviously are still around in the future, so they don't wipe themselves out. However, because they're both Targaryens, I don't know which family is going to survive, right? So like that in and of itself, if you're not familiar with the story, that in and of itself is great, built-in stakes, right?
Right.
For those of us who are familiar with the history of this, and we know which family is going to come out on top, what's really cool about this show versus like the books is how it's being told. Because the book is not a straightforward book. The book is a history book. And the history book specifically tells us, we got these accounts from this specific character who often like has a contradictory interpretation of events with another character. So we don't know exactly like what the truth is of these moments. And what's been really cool about this show is we're not getting third-hand accounts. We're getting direct accounts. So certain things have been going down in the show differently than the books, and it's not contradictory. This is the first-hand account. A perfect example is Aemon and Vhagar when they kill Lucerys, because the way it's described in the book is it's a vicious attack, and he did it because he had vengeance in his heart, right? And he was just this cold person, right? They describe him as a monster. But in the show, like we see, like he's trying to fuck with Lucerys, but he doesn't want to kill him. In fact, like when Vhagar goes in for the kill, he screams no, right?
Right.
Yeah. Which really cool depth for the character that like we just don't have in the book because it's like I said, it's just a different story.
And you bringing up that point about it, how it being a history book, and we're getting like the first-hand account, and how the history books can be a little bit misleading with depending on who is recanting the story. It reminds me of Game of Thrones with the whole Ned Stark and is it Lena?
Oh, Lyanna.
Lyanna Stark, and how Jon Snow essentially ends up being a member of the family. The whole story of Game of Thrones until that very last season when we actually get what can be, I guess, more of a first-hand account. We get like the real vision, right, from I think Bran's having the vision of what actually happened, which is I guess technically a first-hand account. But up until that moment, we've only had like the history book story, right? And there was a lot of pieces left out. I don't know. It kind of reminded me of that
No,
particular.
I think that's
Game
a
of
really
Thrones scene.
good.
It's like
I
really,
think that's a really good
fun.
comparison because so much of A Song of Ice and Fire is told from the point of view of a character, right?
Right.
And they are not reliable narrators ever.
Yeah, which is brilliant, right? Because from a show perspective, you can almost do whatever they want to get there,
Right.
as long as they get there the right way.
Right,
You
as
know?
long as they hit the historical beats,
It's brilliant.
fine.
Yeah, it's really brilliant. Freaking George R. R. Martin. That's cool. All right, what else? What else you got?
That's all I've got for Team Black,
Same, okay.
which I think is now a good time to hear a word from our sponsors. Okay, and we're back. And we still have half an episode to talk about here, which is wild. We still have the Greens to discuss. So I guess to describe what's going on with the Greens is, it's not as reactionary. I mean, in a way it is, right? Like they're kind of just like trying to figure out what their next move should be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a lot more political intrigue going on in this half of the story, right? Like there's a lot of people trying to like play 3D chess with each other here. In particular, it feels like Otto, Aemon, and Alicent are all like working against each other.
Yeah, definitely a lot of political turmoil currently going on at King's Landing. It's very interesting because they all have their own vision of what needs to happen next, but they all know that what happens next is war. They just all disagree on how to start. Although it's already begun, right? I mean, like, there's no other way. Nothing else is going to happen. And they even, Otto and Alicent even have this conversation, later in the episode. Like, we both know it's war, essentially. And they just have to now agree on, like, how to control Aegon, right? It's like, I freaking love Game of Thrones. Like, in this Song of Ice and Fire, like, it's always about how the people around the king can control the king. Like, like, it's always about controlling the king instead of letting the king run things, and it's so interesting.
It feels very much so that the hand of the king, in this case, Otto, like, is the one in control, right? Like, he's the true, like, master of Westeros at this point.
Right. For now, at least.
For now, yeah.
But we've got some little birdies here talking to Aegon separately, trying to get him to be his own man. Yeah, the
conversation with Larry's is really interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. I found myself thinking during this episode that I'm ready for Otto Hightower to not be living anymore.
To exit stage left.
He needs to exit. I'm getting more and more annoyed with him as the episodes go on. He has played his part well, but I think it's time for him to go.
I agree. Later, I think if you could choose a villain for House of the Dragon, I think some, maybe most, would agree it's Otto Hightower.
Yeah, he's just
He's just such a bastard.
He just sucks.
he makes Tywin Lannister look like a good dad. He sucks. Although I don't know, Tywin was a pretty awful dad.
I don't know. I don't know if he's worse than that. That's
maybe like the same level. I mean, like they both pimped out their daughters.
Yeah, that's true. So
although
I don't know.
Otto pimped out his daughter to like his best friend who was like way too old for his daughter.
Yeah, well,
kind of
gross. How it goes. Yeah,
that's how it goes.
She's doing fine though. Wow, clearly with her Kingsguard. I mean,
God, yeah. Speaking of duty and honor, the biggest hypocrites of the episode.
He's one of the He's such an interesting character though, right? Because like, kind of like you were saying, the episode's really about duty in a lot of ways, and we get insight into
incest. Oh wait, sorry. Sorry, no, that's later. Or earlier, sorry.
We get insight into, the Sir Kristen's escapades with the Queen, basically, or not the Queen anymore.
Still the Queen. Or no, I guess you're right. Queen.
No, she's
Queen
not.
Regent. Yeah, I guess
I
she's not
guess.
queen. Yeah, she's not
She's
queen
not queen
anymore.
anymore. With the king's mother, with Alicent, and it's funny, right? Because he's supposed to be all about this duty and all these things, and then he's, essentially having sex with the person he's supposed to guard, and then also simultaneously on his off time talking to Aemon about strategy and how to take over and defeat Daemon and Rhaenyra. So it's a very interesting character, Sir Criston, who, of course, in season 1 absolutely loses his brain and kills the love interest of one of the Valyrians. What an interesting character.
I'm glad you brought him up from a segue to Otto, because, let me say, I take back what I said about Otto. Otto, I think, is, the villain of the show. But, as far as, the most despicable characters, I hate Criston Cole. Because, here's my thing, right? All right, so Otto Hightower's a bastard man. But, at least he has ambition, and he's, trying to, selfishly, preserve, his legacy, right? There's, a method to the madness, right? There are reasons why he does what he does. Whereas, Criston Cole's just such a baby. He willingly walked into, a relationship with Rhaenyra, right? Knowing, what it was, and then, as soon as she was all right, no more, he's meh, 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 just starts crying about it, right? And just, emotionally can't handle it.
Yeah.
And decides, well, screw it, I'm gonna sleep with your best friend. It just, he sucks. He just sucks so much. He's the dude who loves, bullying people, but as soon as you start messing with him, he can't handle.
Yeah,
he's that guy.
As far as I'm concerned, Otto Hightower and Sir Criston are both on my kill list. Hopefully they're both before the end of the season. Hopefully they're both gone.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
What did we used to call that? What was the?
The Game of Thrones Deadpool Game of Corpses.
Game of Corpses.
Yes.
Yeah.
We should do Game of Corpses.
They're both on the Deadpool. We should. We should get it going after this.
That'd be dope.
All right, and then all right, what else?
Oh, so, I really want to talk about Aegon.
Yeah, that's where I was going. So Aegon,
cool.
I really like the difference in this first episode. I love it. He's it's only been a couple weeks, right, since season 1 has ended. Essentially, since since he became king, it's only been a few weeks in story time. And he is he's the king now. He actually feels very king-like in some ways, and he's got a great presence. I loved him in this episode, and really cool really cool seeing him want to bring his son into the meetings and try to get his son involved already, which of course is the show ripping our hearts out before ripping our hearts out. Showing us this cute kid playful in the meeting he's not supposed to be in because Aegon loves him so much that he wants to, show him what it's like to be he wants to bring his heir up correctly, unlike how he was brought up. Damn show. Damn show.
Hey, I do like that, he's intentionally, a shenaniganizer, right? He's just, trying to, stir the pot, right? He wants his kid to also stir the pot. I think that there is some division. I don't know if people dislike him, but I think there's some division on how people are interpreting him, right? Because I think some people are oh, well, he's a lot like Joffrey. I don't think he's a lot like Joffrey.
People need to go back and watch.
Right. Joffrey was a sociopath.
He's nothing like Joffrey. He's crazy.
I think the only similarity you can make is Aegon. Aegon and Joffrey both just aren't very smart, right? They're not that smart, especially Joffrey. Joffrey was horribly dumb, right? I wouldn't describe Aegon as particularly smart either. However, to what you were saying, I think Aegon has a good heart ultimately.
Yeah, and they show it in the episode when he's has the people from King's Landing, when he's got them. What is it? Petitions. He got the petitions for what need to be done. You can tell that he cares based on the answers he wants to give. Mm-hmm. And then the answer he gives the blacksmiths against Otto Hightower's instruction, right? He's they need the money now. We need them, and we need the smaller groups to be able to win this war. It's like he has the kind of heart that actually could win over the people,
small folk,
and the small folk, right? He actually, it seems like he has it, at least at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think what happens at the end of this episode is going to completely just change this guy's being, of course, which is disappointing because I feel like if we could bottle this Aegon up, I could see him like running the Seven Kingdoms and it being successful.
As long as Otto is out of the picture,
right,
and like he's got someone he can actually rely on, who's not trying to like usurp him or use him. Yeah, I totally agree.
Which
I think Aegon has it in him to be a good king.
His brother should be his hand. Aemond.
I don't know.
I mean,
his brother supports him. I agree with that. I think his brother supports him, but his brother's also a psychopath.
Yeah, his brother is a psychopath. He would just want war, which, I mean, literally, Aemond is Team Green's Daemon.
Right. Right. No, he is. He is. They're purposely. Yeah, they're purposely being paralleled.
Waiting for their battle. That's going to be awesome if it comes. I'm excited for that. I'm assuming it comes. You're giving me a face. You've read the books, so that'll be a good one. Anyway, all right.
One more note on Aegon before we move on.
Yeah.
And then a quick thing on Aemon. So. Actually, I'm going to start with Aemon because the Aegon thing is going to transition into the last scene. So Aemon has a conversation with Kristen Cole that you brought up earlier, where Aemon is making moves against Otto, and in some ways, I don't know if he's making moves necessarily against Aegon, but he's not keeping Aegon in the loop, right? He might be doing it with Aegon's best interest, but he's making his own moves, right? And there's a line. When Kristen Cole's like, well, like, what about the Queen Regent? What about Alicent? And Aemon says, the Queen Regent speaks with two tongues, and I was like, two tongues? You're talking to the right dude, my friend. Sorry, just the cunnilingus opening to Sir Kristen Cole and Alicent was just so unexpected, and I don't know if that was like the writers being cheeky at that point, but I giggled a little bit. It's great. Anywho, so the end of this episode is, of course, Daemon has infiltrated the city, since he has extensive knowledge of different passageways all around King's Landing. And he makes contact with an old Gold Cloak member, and then a rat catcher, who the White Worm had informed him of. And he pairs them together. The show does not name these two. However, in the subtitles, I think one of them is named Cheese. These characters, though, in the book are Blood and Cheese. And they are infamous because of what happens here at the end. Before we transition, though, to the end, the thing I wanted to bring up with Aegon, I wish that there was just an episode of Aegon just like broing out with his dudes on the throne. Like, I enjoyed that so much.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. He's a likable king, at least for the moment.
He's likable, yeah.
He's not going to be anymore because, Blood and Cheese came up in there and just like said, screw it. You ain't got no more air.
Ruined it. Dude just ruined it.
Oh, dude. I mean, look, what does Daemon expect? He's sending two idiots, basically sending two village idiots to, try to infiltrate the king or the queen or really they're trying to find Aemond, but like they don't know where they're going once they get to the high end of the castle.
It's a bad plan. It's a really terrible bad plan. Because so many things can go wrong. And I get it from his point of view. He's like, it's a dude with long hair and one eye. How hard could it be to find? I think he even says that. He says it's like, it should be easy to find him. And it's like, well, of course not, because we don't know what his movements are. And like, based on where they end up, I think they end up in the room that Aemon was just in
Yeah.
Before Otto interrupted.
Right.
So like they just missed Aemon, right?
Right.
There's a really cool scene though when they walk into that room and Cheese looks up and sees it's a portrait of the burning of Harrenhal. With like one of Aegon's dragons, Aegon the First's dragons coming over. I think it's Balerion, and just spitting hellfire over it. And like you can tell he's like horrified by the image of it. And honestly, like I think it's kind of fucked up that the Targaryens keep that up in their room. It's like if someone was celebrating 9/11. It's like, damn, this is messed up.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, they walk in this room. They just miss Aemond. And so they continue their search through the castle, and they stumble into the queen's quarters with the two babies. You know, the guy and the girl, the prince and princess sleeping. Yeah, they take a knife to the queen and they ask her to tell them which one is the son. And like, so many questions are going on during this, right? Because in her head, she's like, do I tell them who the son is? Are they going to know I'm lying? Do I tell them it's my daughter and then hope that they don't understand that I'm lying? And then they decide that, I wouldn't give up my son, so I'd give them my daughter. Like, at least that's what's going through my head, right? Like, her decision to point to the prince very quickly, it seemed like. It felt like she did kind of point quickly, and then Blood even says she wouldn't give him up that easy. It must be the other one, right? And then I think Cheese is the one who looks her in the eye and decides that she was telling us the truth from the beginning, and then they go and they kill the boy. Which the whole time I'm like, why are they even asking her? It's pretty easy to find out which one's the boy and which one's the girl.
So
like,
I gave this some thought because I had the same idea. It was like
what's the point?
Right, like why not just check? And the only thought I have to defend what they did, which I don't want to, but I think the idea here is that they're trying to do this as quietly as possible, right? And like as soon as like one of the kids like wakes up, like now there's an unknown variable that could like possibly alert people that they're there, you know? Like they just want to like get the information, kill one of the kids, and then run the fuck out of there. You know what I mean? I think that's loosey-goosey logic, but that's the only idea I can come up with.
Yeah, that is the only idea, but it's totally dumb in this scenario.
Yes.
Because she grabs the girl anyway and gets out of there immediately. And I mean, she goes for help, right? She goes to Alicent's room, which, you know, she's mid screw. Sir Kristen. She walks in there, which is just like, okay, this is just, everyone knows this is happening then, right? Like, and then Alicent's like, what's happened? And then this essentially how the episode ends. But we have to talk about the sound effects real quick. Like, HBO, thank you for that. She grabs her, so the queen grabs her daughter and they're getting out of the room, and like as they're leaving the room quickly, like you can just hear Blood and Cheese like stabbing the prince to death, and the gruesome sound effects just like,
well, like they're not just stabbing, they're cutting, they're removing the head. You can hear him sawing like the neck off because like so Aemon told him to bring me the head.
Yeah, so gross, dude. Oh,
yeah, God. It's pretty brutal. There have been some online saying like that it was whitewashed because we don't see it, which I don't know if you need to see a kid being decapitated. I think hearing it is enough, and it's more than I ever need.
Yeah,
it's pretty horrible.
I don't need to see anything else. That was enough. And honestly, that was more gruesome than actually seeing it. Just hearing it.
Yes,
is worse.
I totally agree with this. So the director of this episode is Alan Taylor, and he's got quite the resume. He's been making TV and making film for a long time. As far as Game of Thrones goes, he's directed quite a few episodes. Mm-hmm. What I believe is probably his most famous episode is The Baylor, episode 9 of season 1, which of course is the death of Ned Stark, right? And I think you could make some comparisons to those two scenes just based on style. Because like you do see Ned's head get cut off, but like the way it happens, like it's not like you watch the head fall off, right? Like sword comes and then like it's like a cut to black, and I think like you get Arya's reaction to like what actually happened, right? Which is like it's our reaction too, right? Because we're like, no, he didn't actually just die, right?
Right.
I do think that there's like a similarness there, right? Because like again, we see it's Helena's reaction, right? Of Jacaerys being decapitated.
Oh God, what a freaking scene, man! And you know what? This has I can't wait for the next episode either, because Aegon's gonna absolutely flip out, and he might also blame Aemond retroactively.
Interesting. Well, I mean, yeah, right? Because he killed Lucerys.
Aemond killed Lucerys, so this doesn't happen if that doesn't happen. So there can be some real interesting turmoil, within Team Green, even that just happening. I mean, and then also like no guards, no nothing. I mean, I guess it's just, them feeling very safe in their towers, right? In their ivory towers.
Their ivory tower.
Like, they're feeling very safe in the ivory tower. They don't need guards outside their doors. Like, man.
No, I agree. And like what we were saying earlier, one of the genius like elements of this show is, like we know what historical beats are going to happen, but like I don't know how Aegon's going to react to this. I don't know necessarily how this is going to change him.
Right.
I don't think, me personally, I don't think he's going to blame Aemon. I think he idolizes his brother too much. Mm-hmm. I think, well, idolize is the wrong word. I think he thinks very highly of his brother. And I don't think he's going to go to him. I think, unfortunately, just like all the other women on this show, I think he's going to blame Helena for the death of Jacaerys.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because like it just feels like every woman in this show just gets the fucking worst of it.
Yeah, and then of course he'll blame Team Black, and then.
Well, yes.
I mean, if the next episode doesn't have dragons from one of the sides going to the other, I don't know what they're dragging it along, because this is the final straw. This is all out war. It starts in episode 2, like it has to. Like there's no. Mm-hmm. He's going to be completely distraught.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Aegon, I'm like, screw it. I'm getting on my dragon right now, and I'm going.
Right, taking care of this myself.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see.
Let me ask you, just as a fun final note here, whose team are you on?
Team Black.
Team Black. Yeah, me too.
Although that, at the end of the episode, I was like, oh man,
this is pretty fucked up.
If Otto Hightower also would have died, I might be Team Green, but he's still alive, so I cannot cheer for Team Green yet. But if Otto Hightower dies, I might be flipping sides. Let me just say that.
I hear that. There are some people on Team Green that I like. I like Aegon. I like. Yeah. I kind of like Alicent too. I feel bad for Alicent most of the time.
I've always kind of liked Aemond. I've always liked him a little bit too.
I do too. But I love Rhaenyra and Daemon too much. They're just. I know. They're so great.
Rhaenyra's a badass, so it's tough not to cheer for her. So.
I am also a big fan of Corlys.
Yeah. Same. And then, of course, like if whoever side the Starks are on.
Well, yeah, right? Those are the good guys, obviously. Oh man. But yeah, a lot to look forward to. It's gonna be a short season, only 8 episodes. So we got 7. Yeah, right. We've only got this for 2 months, so 7 weeks to go. But I think it's gonna be a really great 7 weeks. This was a really promising start, Nick. If you were to rate it, how would you rate it?
Throwing me off with the rating. We don't rate TV
shows. We don't normally.
What are you doing?
Single episodes.
I'm gonna say I'm not gonna give it a number. I'm gonna give it from a scale of terrible to excellent. I'm gonna give it a very good.
Ooh, all right, very good. That seems like a very good start.
Very good premiere.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna. I'm such a simp, but I don't care. I'm gonna say great. I thought it was great. Awesome. Awesome music, awesome acting, great effects. The dragons look amazing.
The dragons look great.
Yeah, I'm just so baby, we're back. I'm so
back.
excited.
We're back.
So good. But yeah, that'll do it for us today. When we come back, Nick, what are we reviewing next? What's on the docket?
Oh man, I think the next thing that we're going to be talking about is the opening episode of The Bear season 3.
Yes. Oh my god, I can't wait.
Yeah, because we're like intertwining with these 3 TV series now. So we're going to do The Bear season 3, episode 1, and then the next thing we'll do after that is probably a halfway through of The Acolyte.
Oh boy.
And then we'll do a halfway through of House of the Dragon. And then we'll do a halfway through of The Bear. And then we'll do a review of Deadpool Wolverine. And then we'll do a review of all 3 TV series when they've ended.
Ooh, we're going to be eating good this summer.
Something like that. Well, it might vary a little bit depending on our schedules because life is busy. But you'll be seeing a lot more of us, unfortunately. But yeah, Bear season 3, episode 1 reviews coming up. This is the next thing we'll talk about.
Awesome.
But follow us on Instagram, follow us on Threads, subscribe to us on YouTube, please. Follow us on your favorite podcast channel, and tell us what you think.
Yeah, that's right. And until next time, may the review be with you.